Why do black people always got to defend our culture? I don't understand that. We got to defend our history, our culture. The people, they're always attacking black people. It's annoying. Anyway, this is my reply to Carneades. There's a series on YouTube where they talk about philosophy. The whole channel is dedicated to the understanding of philosophy, and they did a series on African philosophy, which I wasn't surprised that it was going to be um, halfway a subpar, and not even dealt with fully. It was trash. So the thing that was disappointing was to see the comments from people who were from the motherland, who was from Africa, commenting that they enjoyed it, that they liked it, and they just gave them praise, and I'm like, what the hell? But anyway, I'm not gonna. He broke it up into several different parts. He talked about the Akan philosophy, Yoruba. Yes, it's pronounced Yoruba. He talked about Ethiopian philosophy, Bantu philosophy. So he broke it up in several different videos. I'm not going to do several different videos. I'm doing this one video to correct the mistakes that he made and the idiocy of his research, because he didn't do no research at all. It's I don't I don't even think you actually even read Caesar the books that you talked about from Temple and Caesar. But no, and them books, no. But anyway, look, let me just start off with this. Let's just start off number one. The first thing you mentioned is African philosophy. All right, and you said that it's funny when when we talk to people about African philosophy. Immediately, everybody always say, which African philosophy. Africa is a big continent, several different cultures. It's diversity. Which philosophy are you referring to? It's what you said, and it's funny how everybody thinks that. However, when you talk about Western philosophy, European philosophy, people don't say that. They don't say, yo, which European philosophy are you talking about? Which Western philosophy are you talking about? Because it's understood that Western philosophy is only one philosophy. They all have the same philosophical outlook. Even though they have different cultures, they speak different languages. When you talk about Western philosophy, when you talk about European philosophy, immediately it's understood what you're talking about. So why is it? It's just funny when you talk about African philosophy, people want to talk about, oh, which one? There's only one African philosophy. There's only one African culture, and Malif Kete Asante has proven that. Um, Dr. Dr. Cambone, or Badale Cambone, who's in Ghana right now, has proven that. And all you had to do is reach out to either one of the professors, either one of those professors, even Dr. Wayne Nobles, and ask them questions about African philosophy before you even started your series, so you could get a better understanding. Because it doesn't matter if it's north, west, east, or south. When you take out the European influence, when you take out the Arab influence, African philosophical thought, spiritual thought, cultural thought is all the same. It is all the same. All right. So, and it was just funny. He was saying there's not too many books out there on African philosophy where you can study it. Not true. People have been writing books. I just mentioned two people to you, Dr. Wade Nobles, Dr. Leif Kete Asante, who's been writing books. It's a book right here. All right, this is about Dr. Fu Kiao. He has a few books, has several books on African philosophy. Dealing with this is one of them. This is just one book. Here's another one that you could have referenced, that you could have read, and this was about Dr. Kamalu on African philosophy. There's several books out there on African philosophy, talking about African philosophy, and getting an understanding of the culture, the philosophical thought, and the spiritual thought. So to say that there isn't an overall African philosophical thought on the continent, even though they speak different languages, even though they may be different regions, that there's not the same connection is not true at all. All right, so. Again, that was you just don't. Again, that's just called poor research and what you was looking at, and you know what you're talking about. And also to get into, you talk about Bantu philosophy. You didn't even get into Bantu philosophy for real. You didn't even get into the crux of it. And it's a book written by Jahiz Johns called Muntu, who explains this is a great book. He explains that African culture is all the same, and he goes into Bantu. He goes into the philosophy of Bantu, of their view of humans, nature, and the Creator. So all you had to do is do a little research, and you would have known about Bantu philosophy, and you would have understood what they was talking about when they was talking about the energy in lesser objects and lesser beings, lesser energy objects and different beings. Because I really don't have time. I really don't have time. I don't want to make this a long video to go into it. But Jahiz Johns gets into that when you're talking about Muntu, Kintu, Hintu, Huntu. He explains that, and explain it's the same whether it's Bantu or Akan or Yoruba or Igbo or Chi. It's the same. But you didn't do research on that, and so that's how you was wrong. Number two, I want to talk about that you mentioned there is no written philosophy in Africa before pre-colonial times. Interesting that you would say that. And it was, like I said, it was interesting in the comments how many black people who was from Africa agreeing with what you said. And I noticed in the beginning of the series, he says he's going to focus on sub-Saharan Africa. Sub-Saharan Africa. Even though Dr. Cambone said we should call it Super Saharan Africa. But anyway, he want to focus on Sub-Saharan Africa, taking out of the northern countries, taking Egypt out of the equation, taking ancient Egypt out of the equation, Kemet out of the equation. So therefore, you could say there's no written philosophy. And the reason he wanted to do that is because he says that Carneades, who was from Egypt, and that was in the late 100s BC, and there was many Greeks, and the Egypt's philosophy, and at the time was very similar to the other Mediterranean people, like the Greeks, the Romans, the Persians around that area. It was very similar to theirs, so therefore you could say Egyptian philosophy, Greek philosophy, the Roman, all that stuff was pretty much the same. Okay, I get that. Yeah, I can understand that. Because after the Romans, after the Persians, the Romans, the Greeks, after they, ransacked and conquered Egypt, yeah, sure, I can understand that. But the question should arise, what about the thousands of years before that? Come on! 2,000 years before Greek civilization even came to existence, African people have already theorized about the Creator, the universe, the existence of man. 4,000 years before Greek civilization, before any other civilization that was around. And for those side note, for those of y'all who want to say, "Oh, Sumer was a civilization around," Sumer was African people. Was a civilization started by African people that left out of Africa, out of Egypt, went over there and started and built Sumer. Okay, so it's dead that. This time frame, 4,000 BC, there was no Greeks, there were no Persians, there were no Romans, there was no other civilization on the map except right there in Kemet, which y'all call ancient Egypt. And they already written a philosophical text. You didn't want to approach that. That's why you say you only want to deal with sub-Saharan Africa. But you forget that Kemet was an African country before colonialism. Before any other quote-unquote race of people was around. We have the text of Ptah-hotep. You have the book they call the Book of the Dead by Ewaz Budge, which was originally called the book of Coming Forth by Day. The whole thing is a philosophical text, a spiritual philosophical text that was written 4,000 years ago. But yet you didn't want to bring that up because it would blow your whole theory out that there was no written text about African people before colonialism. That's why I got to bring that up, because white people always want to try to take Egypt out of the equation. But Egypt, ancient Egypt, Kemet was black. It was all black. It was all African people. It was a civilization started by African people. No other people was even around when they started the civilization 5,000 BC. when they was living in that area, 10,000, 12,000 BC, just living in that area, different communities. It didn't become one kingdom until King Menes went up and down the Nile, conquering every civilized town and making it one nation. That was 5,000 BC. What were the Greeks doing? What were the Persians doing? They wasn't even on the map. All right, so that's that. Philosophical text was already there. And now the whole idea of philosophy, questioning whether or not African people have a philosophy, whether African people can get philosophical is idiocy. Philosophy was started by African people. The Greeks learned from the Africans. Did they not? Did not Plato say that he went to Egypt to learn? Did not Aristotle say that he went to Egypt to learn? Pythagoras spent 22 years in Egypt to learn? But yet, your whole channel is dedicated to philosophy and what Plato is and the foundation of Greek philosophy. But what did Plato say about Greek philosophy? Did he not say that Greek philosophy, Greek education, is only fit for pigs, not fit for human beings? And if you want to learn how to be a human, you have to go to Egypt. Did he not say that? He did say that in the laws. And he said that in Carneades. You forget that? But yet, this is what y'all based Western culture off of, was Greek philosophical thought. When Plato said that Greek education, Greek philosophy is only fit for pigs, it's not fit for human beings. But since the foundation of Western culture was based on the education that was only fit for pigs, look at what we have today. A world that's based on greed and objectivity, placing values in objects. But anyway, the Greeks didn't even know what philosophy was. Sophia, the word Sophia, is not even a Greek word. It was a foreign word. And master teacher Theophil Binga proved that to you in the book. And if you had done your research, you would have known that. The Greeks didn't even know what philosophy was. They had to go to Kemet to learn. And when they came back, they was using that word Sophia, Sophos, which was a foreign word in their dialect. And Theophil Binga approves it in his works. He proves it in several lectures on YouTube. All you gotta do is just search, and you would have found that out. But of course, as Amos Wilson says, European history is just pure mythology. Their education is mythology. You have to present your education as a mythological education to seem superior to everyone else. Do your research. Y'all, you're completely wrong. You don't understand what African philosophy is. You don't understand. You don't understand it at all. Just because the Europeans chose to write their stuff down doesn't make it superior. Just because the Europeans codified their philosophy, codified their ideas and ideology, that's supposed to be a superior form of education and a way of thinking. Really? Western culture is only 2,700 years old. The earliest you could go back, the Greek civilization is in the 700s with Thales. That's it. You can't go before that. African culture, 50,000 years old. 50,000 years before the pyramids were built, African people have already, we could prove, it is proven that African people theoreticize about the universe, ask questions about man, ask questions about our existence, track the stars, track the constellations. For 50,000 years, Kemet became the pinnacle of African thought. Their philosophical thought, the religion, the spiritual system was based on science of 50,000 years of observation. And then they created a religious system. 50,000 years compared to y'all 2,700 years. How you like y'all children? How you going to come to us and and say that we don't know what philosophy is. The arrogance of children. That's the mindset that Europeans have, that Western culture is. Do your research. Your channel is bull. Your channel is straight bullshit. And your website, bullshit. Because you're basing your philosophical foundation on Greece, which is what? Only fit for pigs. Plato said it. Your teacher said that. The education that you based on is only fit for swine, not fit for humans. That's my reply. Do your research. I'm out.